All right, y'all. What's up? I hope you guys are having a great whatever day it is for you. But today I just finished my Spiral Abyss run, and normally I would have showcased the footage and shared my thoughts on the Spiral Abyss, but man, it would have been a lot of failed attempts. I had a lot of trouble with this iteration of the Spiral Abyss, not because my characters were like underwhelming or anything like that. It was just trying to figure out the best way to go about the fight, or to go about each chamber. Now this video I'm gonna try to keep it short because I'm going to just make it about just talking about the chambers, what they're like, and what kind of teams you should expect to bring that can help you get that magical 36 stars. So let's start with floor 11 because floor 9 and 10 are still, they're pretty much the same. I've made our old video guides on those if you need help with those chambers, but usually they're pretty free. But let's start with floor 11, chamber 1. Now this one is pretty easy. The entire floor 11 is pretty easy to be fair. The first half is going to be specters. So it's Hydro, Geo, Cryo, and Anemo specters. Try not to bring an element of the same type as they will be heavily resistant to it. It is going to be 12 specters in 3 groups, and they spawn 4 at a time. After that, you're gonna fight a bunch of Eremites. It doesn't show you that you're gonna fight like 22 of these guys, plus the Pyro Agent. I think it's only one Pyro Agent, but there's gonna be a lot. I do recommend bringing a sort of CC like Sucrose or Kazuha to help bring everyone together, or a Venti, or if you're using Nahida, who doesn't really need them to be grouped up, then you can use her as well. Chamber 2, we're going to have the training wheels to the boss on floor 12, which is the Aeon Blight. This is the Skywatch. You're going to fight 2 of these. If you've traveled around Sumeru, then you're pretty familiar with how they work, but if you're not, they are just big mechanical machines that fly around. You can stun them by shooting like these sort of cores on the sides of these machines, and I'll kind of hopefully have some background thingy to show you while I'm talking about it. But you shoot those when they're flying around to get them down on the ground, and they'll be stunned, and that's your your ticket to just wail on them. It is advised to bring a ranged person for them, but you don't need it. If you have like a bow character that's a sub DPS, then you can just use them just to shoot the cores on the wings to take them down. On the second half, you're going to fight a bunch of samurai and treasure hunters, as well as a mirror maiden who pops up at the last wave. If you're not familiar with the mirror maiden and how she works, basically when she first spawns, she will cast a spell with 3 circles around her. If you step in one of these circles, then the mirror maiden gets a big buff to her damage, as well as being able to cast more stronger attacks. She will also be immune to being staggered or any sort of CC, so it's not a big deal if you're, if you're able to just blaze through this floor like any other. You can just, damage her down. It's not a big deal. But if you do struggle, you might want to try to avoid those circles as long as you can, just so you can try to at least get her really weak before she buffs herself up. And of course, using another CC grouping character will help with the treasure hoarders that throw a bunch of potions at you. And it does work on the Mirror Maiden before she gets that buff. So it's a really nice addition to have. But then, when you get to Chamber 3, Hoyoverse kind of sweeps the rug under you if you've been going on the second half here. Because now, they give you big group of enemies, then you get to the second half, and then all of a sudden, Cube Boss. Luckily, the Cube Boss is fairly straightforward, not hard to defeat at all. Hopefully I, again, still have some footage of me fighting it and to explain the last bit. But let's talk about the first half before I get carried away with the Dendro Cube. Geobishops, I'm sure most of you are familiar with these enemies by now. When you get to about 50% HP on both of them, they will absorb an element. It doesn't tell you which one it is. And then they will infuse their attacks with said element. I don't remember, or I don't think I saw what element they infused because I ended up killing them too fast. But I'm not trying to flex. I'm just telling you how it is. They died before they could show me what element they were, but it's 2 of them, and it's not going to be hard at all. Going back to the cube, you're going to damage it just like any other cube boss. It's going to do some attacks that you're just going to have to learn how to dodge and deal with, and then you'll see the exposed core. That's when you damage it. However, just like any other cube boss we fought before, there is sort of like a gimmick at the end before you can truly kill it. This one, however, requires you to have a Dendro character. I 100% recommend bringing a Dendro character. You absolutely need one because there's going to be 3 plants that spawn around the cube, and you can use anybody. You can use Nahida, you can use Kali, you can use Dendro Traveler, although I wouldn't recommend them because of their skill cooldown. You can use Signori, of course, as well. And you just want to apply Dendro to these plants. If you have Electro, you can also apply Electro after Dendro to make the plants. You're sort of like curing the corruption on this cube at the end. You'll see what I mean when you actually take on the fight yourself. But you're curing the cube, and the Electro makes the plants cure the cube faster. There is a sort of ghetto strat you could do if you didn't bring a Dendro, but you need a Hydro character instead to do the Bloom elemental reaction, and then you have the cores, and then those will explode on the plants. I do not recommend doing it this way. This is going to take way longer. It's okay if your Dendro character isn't built optimally. Just play it with like a 3 character party and then just use them at the end of the fight to just apply their Dendro. So if you're using Kali, just shoot the plants with her charge shot or use her boomerang. Floor 11 also has a nice elemental mastery buff of 200, so this is going to benefit literally every team in the game that uses an elemental reaction. So, you know, sorry physical damage dealers, you're kind of out of luck here. But floor 12, this is the one where I had a lot of trouble, as most players do, right? You're going to have to deal with a bunch of wolves. This picture does not do it justice. There are a lot of wolves that spawn. I believe it's like 14 or 7, like it's a lot. There's 14 or 17 of these things. So you get 2 waves of like 6 of the whelps. The rift hounds come out at the end. There are 2 of them. And if you don't know the gimmick with the wolf enemies in this game, it's actually kind of backwards design compared to what you're used to, but the element that they are affiliated with is actually their weakness. So when you hit them a bunch with Electro, because these are Electro wolves, they're going to do like a roar. And when they do that, they'll actually get a damage boost, but they'll also lose defense. I believe they'll lose resistance to the elements that they're affiliated with. So they'll do less, you'll do more damage with Electro. Sorry, having trouble speaking. And then on the second half, if you've ever had to ascend Raiden Shogun, then you are also familiar with the Thunder Manifestation boss. I highly recommend you bring someone that is ranged for this fight, please. Trying to fight this thing with a melee is miserable, but I'm sure like it's doable, but it's miserable because this thing moves around a lot. And again, it is a flying enemy, so it can be hard to reach at sometimes, but it does move around the arena a bunch. I recommend Ganyu, Yoimiya, even Ningguang if you have her built. Literally anything that is ranged that isn't electro damage will do fine here. Moving on to chamber 2. This is probably the hardest chamber, in my opinion, I would have to say. So you're gonna fight 2 groups of these knights. There's only 1 black serpent knight wind cutter in the second group, by the way, but you're gonna fight 2 groups of these things. The first half of chamber 12 seems to punish you for bringing a shield, because if you bring a shield for these guys, if you're not familiar with how they work, they're in Enka, Noimiya, as well as the Chasm. These guys get a buff when they hit a shield. So when they hit anybody that's protected by a shield, whether it's a skill shield or a crystallized shield from the Geo elemental reaction, they will get a buff to their damage. However, they will also lose health. I tried a team that uses a shield just to see how much damage it felt like when they had the shield. It didn't seem like a lot, and it kept applying a full shield to them, which was kind of ruining my time and making it taking a lot longer to kill them. So I would not recommend bringing a shield for these guys. They are susceptible to CC, so if you want to bring your Kazuha, your Venti, or your Sucrose here to help group them up, which I highly recommend, unless you're using Nahida again, then please do so. You have to fight 2 groups of these, and they're very, very tanky. One benefit to fighting them is that they are very, very slow, at least. So dodging at least the melee one's attacks is pretty easy. The range ones, You might be distracted, you know, mid-fight to dodge like an arrow coming at you from the side, but luckily it doesn't do that much damage. But I had the most trouble with this chamber because it took so long for me to kill them. And then on the second half, it is 2 Frost Lava Churls and 2 Thunder Lava Churls. You fight the 2 Frost ones first, and then the 2 Thunder ones will spawn in later. The Frost ones do have that annoying ability where an ice sort of like prison. You guys are probably familiar with this effect. An ice prison will come up and sort of make your character stuck. Bringing a shield on the second half is recommended, especially if you are having trouble with dodging their attacks. Also recommended to bring a pyro character. Any sort of fire damage is going to help break their shields even faster so that you can do damage to them sooner. We have another boss here. This one is basically the boss version of the Skywatch monsters that you fought, or mechanical machines that you fought in floor 11. This one has similar attacks, but also similar weaknesses as the Skywatch machines. However, this one has a mechanic where he will absorb the element that has done the most damage to it. So if you're using a team with a Pyro main DPS, he is going to absorb that element, and he's going to gain a 60% resistance to that element, or Pyro in that case, in this example. You can bypass this by stunning him. So we mentioned before, just like the Skywatch machines, you're going to shoot the wings, or you're going to shoot the head if it's on the ground, and he will, you know, he'll just be stunned. He'll be on the ground, and that's your time to do all your damage, and he'll lose the added resistance he absorbed. I believe he'll also do a big AoE attack that infuses the element he absorbed. This boss fight isn't that much of a pain as long as you remember the weak spots. That's what will help save you a lot of time. Melee or ranged is okay. Obviously, you do want to bring at least one bow character though, just to shoot the weaknesses, the weak spots on the wings. And then in the second half, you're gonna fight. They spawn in groups of 2. So the first one is going to be the Eremite Gale Hunter, and then the Boxer. And then on the second half, you're gonna fight, or after you kill those 2, then the Stone Enchanter and then the Geo Enchanter will spawn together. If you're not familiar with fighting these Eremites, when they get to about half-ish HP, both of them will summon a friend. They'll summon, the Gale Hunter summons like a bird, and then the Stone Enchanter summons like a crocodile. They do get tankier when this friend is out. If you're doing AoE damage, this mechanic is completely ignorable, as you'll be doing damage to both anyways. When they lose their summon, they'll go into a stunned state, and then you can finish them off that way. For 2E, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, fighting these things. If you don't have like a Geo character for the shield break on the Geo guide, not a big deal. You can just use a Claymore user, or just any element will break it eventually. When you're doing this fight, the second half fight, there is a lightning, I forgot what it's called, but it gives them a lightning shield if you're not fast enough. That needs to be removed with an elemental reaction. So keep that in mind. It is a short fight, but they can get annoyingly tanky because of the shield they get from the electro thing in the center. And that's all the advice I can give you for the Spiral Abyss for now. I do want to, I wanted to showcase them visually and actually going through floor 11 and floor 12, but the video would have been too long. Just talking about the chambers is already bringing me to almost a 20-minute video. Floor 12 gave me a lot of problems, especially on this, again, chamber 2. So I want to showcase a smooth run, not a run where I have to retry for an hour. Well, I'm exaggerating, but I'd rather showcase a smoother guide and be able to explain visually better, what's happening and how to deal with the fight. So I'm going to try to upload more videos on the Spiral Abyss in the upcoming days. Hopefully be on the lookout for those. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out. I appreciate it. And thank you again for getting me to 200 subscribers. I am very happy about that. I appreciate everyone that takes the time to subscribe and watch all my videos. With that being said, thank you once again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.